I know my Lord naked and crucified. I know my Lord naked and crucified. These are the words of Saint Francis while he was almost lying on his deathbed. A brother came to read to him the scriptures, and he said, "There is no need for you to read the scriptures for me anymore, because I have lived the scriptures, and I know my Lord naked and crucified." Saint Francis had a great devotion right from the very early stages of his conversion to the passion of Jesus. And therefore he would spend many hours meditating upon the crucified Lord. It is said that wherever he went, particularly in the forest, he would take 2 twigs, make them into a cross, and place them before him and begin his meditation. As his conversion began to progress, more and more he felt the desire within himself to be conformed, to have the same form and image of his Master Jesus. And therefore, during his lifetime, he was very harsh with his body. A lot of fasting, a lot of penance. We are told that he never really slept flat, but he would always sleep in a curved position. And I had the opportunity of seeing a place in Greccio where he slept, the rock on which he slept. A very curved, small place, not a flat bed really. Towards the end of his conversion, 2 years before his death, there was a very favorite place of Francis called Mount Alverna. It is about 180 kilometers from the city of Assisi. A very beautiful place, very quiet, very serene, a mountain place. And it is in that place that St. Francis would take 1 or 2 of his companions and go for long days of meditation. During this time of the year, particularly around the feast of Saint Michael the Archangel, he undertook a 40 days fast on Mount Alverna, eating only a little bread and water supplied by his companion. And during this time of prayer and meditation, he had 2 prayers on his lips. One, Lord, give me an experience, a little experience of the great love that you had for me. Give me a little experience of the great love that you have for me. And his second prayer was, Lord, give me a little experience of the great suffering that you bore for me on the cross. It is narrated to us that around the feast of the Exaltation of the cross, more likely today, that he had a vision while he was in his prayer. And the vision was of a seraphic angel with the 6 wings. And what he saw in that vision was a man crucified on the cross in deep pain and anguish. And looking at that vision, as we have just heard from the narration, he couldn't understand what exactly that vision was all about. And he felt within himself a combination of deep joy, at the same time deep sorrow. And as that vision was going on, and he was trying to understand what that vision is all about, he was enveloped by the seraph. He was embraced by the seraph. And at the end of that vision, he was left with the imprint of the 5 sacred wounds of our Lord. On his hands, the round images of the nails were clearly visible, and the holes in his hands, and towards the backside, the pointed ends of the nails bent over the flesh, both in his hands and his feet and in his side. St. Francis kept these 5 sacred wounds a big secret and never allowed even his close companions to ever look at them or to touch them or to marvel in them. But now and then, a few of them got a glimpse of those sacred wounds. What is the meaning of this event in the life of St. Francis? Being the first person in recorded history to receive the 5 sacred wounds of our Lord. We go back to the life of St. Paul himself. And St. Paul, at a particular moment of time in his life, he writes, he says, "Leave me alone. Do not disturb me anymore, because I bear in my body the brand marks of our Lord Jesus Christ." I bear in my body the brand marks of our Lord Jesus Christ. Paul had gone through so much of pain and suffering because of Jesus, and he will narrate that in various passages. So many times I was beaten, so many times I was stoned, so many times I was hit with iron rods, so many times my ship was wrecked and I was in the sea, and so many difficulties and challenges I faced. But through all this pain and suffering, carrying the cross in his body, suffering with Jesus, the crucified Lord, at this moment of time, he has the deep realization, now I have almost become one with the Lord. I have in my body the brand marks of our Lord Jesus Christ. And this is exactly the experience of Saint Francis of Assisi. I know my Lord naked and crucified. For almost 18 to 20 years of journeying in discipleship, deep discipleship with the Lord, after his conversion, and 2 years before his death, he has this beautiful experience of the Stigmata, our Lord branding him, imprinting upon him the 5 sacred wounds, as Celano and Bonaventure will write, confirming for Francis that he is now a true disciple of Jesus Christ, the image of Christ, the second Christ. When a woman is giving birth to a child, we are told that she goes through very intense pain and suffering. The act of giving birth to her child is a very painful and laborious process. But the moment the child is born and she hears the first cry of the child, She forgets all that pain and suffering, and immediately she is enveloped with immense joy at seeing the fruit of her womb. And this combination of pain and joy is something what Francis experienced in his own life. That deep pain, the suffering of our Lord, and the deep joy, the love of our Lord, the combination of that, having a deep experience at the moment of the stigmata. It was an answer to his prayer. He had asked the Lord, Lord, give me a deep experience of your suffering. Give me a deep experience of the great love that you have for me. And as a result of both these prayers, the combination, joy and suffering, at one intense moment, the crucifixion and the resurrection, both intensely coming together, leading to joy and sorrow, sorrow and joy, joy and sorrow, was the experience of Francis. What can we take home for ourselves on a feast like this? The first thing that we can realize is that every one of us who wants to be a disciple of Jesus can experience a deep level of discipleship. Our Lord will give it to us, provided we desire it, we want it, and we make the efforts towards it. As given to us in John chapter 15, I am the vine, you are the branches. We are so deeply, closely interconnected, interrelated, linked, joined with the person of Jesus in discipleship. And that is why it is a possibility for every one of us to have that deep, intimate, personal relationship with our Lord in discipleship if we really desire it, want it with all our heart. The Lord will give it to us. The Lord will answer our prayers. A second thing that we can learn from the stigmata of St. Francis, the crucifixion of our Lord, the passion of our Lord, is something that is very valuable for a disciple to meditate upon, to dwell upon, and to imbibe in our own hearts and our spirits. And we see this in the life of all the saints. All the saints endured pain, suffering in their personal lives, and they also spent a lot of time meditating upon the passion of our Lord Jesus Christ. And therefore, to spend time before the crucifix, to spend time meditating upon our Lord and his passion, his suffering, his pain, his humiliation, his ignominy, is not without fruit. It will bear abundant fruit in our life. The third thing that we can learn from the stigmata of St. Francis is the great love that God has for each and every one of us. And this love is given to us in the saving act of Jesus Christ, the saving love of Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for you and for me. As St. Paul will write somewhere, even while we were sinners, Christ died for us. Why? A man will not even die for someone else whom he loves, but Christ died for each and every one of us who were even sinners before God. And therefore, we can cherish in our hearts the great love, the great compassion, the great mercy, the great goodness of God in our life as we recall to our minds and celebrate the memory of the Stigmata of Saint Francis. This is a beautiful day for us to ask the Lord for this grace, just like Saint Francis of Assisi. Lord, give me a little experience of the great love that you have for me. Lord, give me a little experience of the great suffering that you had for me. And maybe sometime in God's own time, in God's own way, He may also give us that deep, loving embrace of being one with Him and one with God, our Father.